What's up, folks? So I'm having a bad day, so I think I do something therapeutic, like answer some dear fat ass or something. I don't know. I'm just filled with rage. just filled with rage. Mostly at several particular people, but just you ever been filled with so much rage, like you just get the feeling like you want to just grab this motherfucker and you just fucking punch him in the face until he gets on the ground, and you take out your fucking pistol and you bash him in the face with it and his fucking jaw breaks, and you shove the barrel of the fucking pistol in his mouth and break his front teeth and ask him, who's a fucking bitch now, you fucking cunt? That's the kind of mood that I'm in. You see? So I just thought I'd explain that to you. So let's answer one of these dear fat ass if I can get my internet to quit being lame. Alright. I'm going to skip over some of this letter, simply for the purposes of time. But as dear fat ass, I'd like some of your advice on maintaining relationship with friends. The reason I'm writing this is because he, the friend that he's referring to before, who they've been friends with for a while, until they started making friends with other people, he's being a douchebag to me recently. He owed me $20 for something, so I asked him on several occasions if he had it. Each time he avoided me or gave me an excuse as to why he didn't have it. I got to the point where it was obvious he just wasn't going to give it to me. In an IM conversation, he admitted that he did not intend to give it to me while still knowing that he owed it to me. I said the only way I'd get it was to walk to his friend's house because he would be forced to give it to me. This really pissed me off, especially because I wasn't expecting it. I knew his password for one of his emails, so I decided to go ahead and fuck some of his shit up. When I found out he acted all indignant as if I was the one who was being a little prick, I eventually told him to keep the money because I didn't want to have to deal with him anymore. I guess the main question of my letter is, how is one supposed to respond to something like that when someone you consider a friend? Do you think I was the one being an asshole? Alright, and that's the important question. Now, the answer to that question is yes, but not exclusively. See, the problem here is that you lost the high ground on this. As soon as you went in and fucked up his emails, you're pretty much even. Alright? I don't know what you did, but that's invasion of privacy, okay? You shouldn't do that. Alright, so you lost the high ground on this. Now, this dude shouldn't have refused to return your money. But you probably should have just cut your losses and been done with it, because it's $20, and it's not like you're going to go and fuck him up for it. You got to cut your losses. Now, it seems you guys are obviously had a falling out anyway, but if he's the kind of person that would borrow $20 and know that you want it, like, with my friends, we'll loan each other money or whatever, and we, when somebody really needs the money back, we'll give them the money back, whatever, it's no big deal. But you obviously wanted this money back, and he knowingly didn't give it to you, which means that he doesn't give a fuck about you or your money or your possessions, and that's not a good person to be around. So I would have recommended cutting ties with this person anyway, but now he has a reason not wanting to talk to you because you don't have any respect for his privacy in this situation. Now, you were pissed off, but just like being pissed off doesn't qualify as a defense for murder, it also doesn't qualify as a defense for breaking into someone's private emails. So you probably shouldn't have done that. But this whole thing is probably over. All right. It's not really over the $20. That's not really what it's about. It's about this person doesn't respect your property, and you responded in kind. All right. Let's find something else in here. All right. All right. I haven't read this one yet, so let's find out if it's interesting. Dear Fat Ass, I was wondering if you could give me some insight on my current situation. Here's a brief rundown of my situation. I went to private Christian school up to 7th grade. During my time there, I felt very normal and had a very solid group of friends, and we were very popular amongst the other kids at school. We were considered the rebellious ones, and everything was great. After 7th grade, my group of friends all were kind of sick of this private Christian school. We all ended up going to public middle schools for the 8th grade. I had one friend from this Christian school, and I ended up going to middle school with. The summer before, we spent a lot of time together and bonded well. This is when the problems arose. Public school was a huge change in environment. At first, me and him ate together at lunch, and then he began to eat with some other people and introduced me to them. For some reason, I had some sort of driving force to push me away from interacting with them. I felt like I didn't belong with that group of friends. Months after, I would eat alone at lunch, which really bothered me. It was extremely embarrassing, and I would walk around and eat my food as if to pretend I was going somewhere instead of sitting alone. Eventually, some people in my English class and I became decent friends, and we would eat lunch with them by the end of the year. During high school, I bonded with these friends and the people they knew. The problem was that I was never really similar to them. They were kind of weird, and they had very strict values on not drinking, smoking, going to parties, shows, etc., stuff that normal high schooler does. Well, I wouldn't go so far as to say that, but every time I was around them, I would pretend to be someone I was not. I would always want to do stuff the cool kids would do, but also knew how much of a douchebag these kids usually were. By junior to senior year, I felt that they knew I had problems with how I acted, and I knew I was different from them, but I also thought it was confusing to them that I would stick around and pretend to enjoy whatever we would do. I feel I have a real social anxiety problem because I was never able to push for new friends that were socially different, and now that high school is done, I basically lost contact with all my friends from high school. Another big thing to note is that during 8th grade, when my social problems started to arise, I began using the computers for online games, chatting, etc. I became addicted to the internet because it would allow me to escape my current turmoils. I now have thoughts of using drugs, alcohol to cloud my head and get away from my real-life social problems. I'm now 18 and in community college with no real direction. The only friends I talk to on a daily basis are people I've met on the internet. I've never had a job and have no clue where my life is headed. What would you suggest for my social problems? Professional help? I get extreme amounts of nervousness and anxiety when doing something simple like going in and asking for a job application. I always think about what people are thinking about when they see me, how they react. Any advice would be awesome. Thanks. Well, based primarily on that last sentence, I get extreme amounts of nervousness and anxiety when doing something simple like going to and asking for a job application. I always think about what people are doing when they see me, how they react. Based on that, if you really do have a consistent feeling like that, you probably, please don't listen. I say shit like this all the time, all right? But I'm not a doctor, okay? Obviously, I'm not pretending to be, and I'm not going to sit here and diagnose your mental illnesses. But based from that sentence, I would say that you should have some concerns as to whether you have a real anxiety disorder, and you should go talk to your doctor. You don't have to go directly to a psychiatrist. You can go to your family doctor. He can refer you to somebody that can help you out with that, whatever. You can always ask your family, ask the friends that you do have what they think about your behavior. It's always easier for other people to judge your behavior in relation to normality than it is for you to judge that behavior. Part of this is just everyone always wants to everyone sort of gravitates towards people, towards certain groups, okay? It's not necessarily wrong that you didn't seek out people that were different from you. That in and of itself, I don't think would qualify as some sort of anxiety disorder. If that's the case, then half the people in school have some sort of disorder. But honestly, based on that last sentence, I would say that there is some concern that you have a real anxiety disorder. Now, the good thing about that is that's something that they can treat, all right, with therapy and medication. Now, you're only 18, so you got plenty of time to fix this shit, but I'd recommend getting on that. And don't hate on the internet friends. There's nothing wrong with having internet friends, man. If you talk to them about real shit instead of just WoW or whatever, I don't know what kind of friends these are, if these are just gaming friends or whatever, but if there's nothing wrong with having people to chat on the internet. It's certainly better than no conversation whatsoever. And complete social isolation is bad for anyone, and especially someone that could have some sort of underlying mental issue, okay? Some sort of underlying mental problem. So I'd recommend that you go talk to your doctor. I recommend that you ask your family and friends that you do have what they think about your behavior, and you have to tell them to be honest, and you have to be willing to hear what they have to say. The number one hardest thing when it comes to mental health, of getting people better, is getting them to realize and admit their problems. All right? So I'd recommend asking those people about that. Let's see. I already did this one. This is another girl question. I mean, alright, let's read this. I've really liked this girl for a few years now, and I don't know if she likes me back. I get really anxious and nervous in social situations dealing with girls. And whenever I'm with her, I'm really nervous and uptight. But this doesn't seem to bother her. Whenever she sees me, she says hi or waves at me, and she laughs at everything I say. I've known her for a long time. So could this just be her personality, or does she like me? I'm in high school, by the way, if that helps. So what should I do? Frankly, I don't know. Okay, sometimes it's really hard to tell. All right, really hard to tell. I'd say just ask her. If you do it in a I don't know. If you ask her in the right way, it won't freak her out too much, and even if she says no, you can still be friends later. Sometimes if you're too upfront about that shit, it'll creep these girls out. But I mean, the worst thing that's going to happen is she's going to say no, okay? And that's not necessarily any worse than you sitting around wondering. And if anything, sitting around wondering is worse than just somebody telling you no. So I recommend you just go ask her, all right? The worst thing she can do is tell you no. She's not going to be like, no, I hate you, you know, in front of everybody. That's not going to happen, all right? Probably. Probably. If it does happen, I don't want to be blamed for that. I think that's all I got for right now. I think it's all I've got. What else do I want to talk about? Oh, there was a story on some billboard. I can't remember what state it was in, but the billboard read something, I'm paraphrasing, something like, be ready for the revolution, or something about the revolution, and prepare for war, and all kinds of crazy shit. Just some more insane right-wing psychopath violence-threatening bullshit that we've been seeing a lot of recently over the past year, and it just seems to be getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Now, I'm not against this sign in principle, because it's freedom of speech, do whatever the fuck you want, and it's not the same thing as the guy standing with the gun and the threatening sign. It's not the same thing. But I would recommend that you keep an eye out for this kind of shit. Now, the kind of people who agree with these sorts of rhetoric, there's not that many of them, all right? But they are dangerous, okay? They're highly dedicated to the things that they believe. They're dangerous, all right? And they can rile up people to their cause. The one thing that I find so funny about this new right-wing movement and this threat of revolution and war and all this shit is, it's almost like they think that only people on the right side of the political spectrum have guns or something. I've always found that very odd. It's like, listen, all right, we all have guns. You want a war? It's not going to be easy, okay? It's not like you're just gonna. It's just going to be you versus a bunch of soy-eating faggots from LA. That's not the case, because there's some of us over here that don't agree with your right-wing bullshit, and we're also quite well armed and perfectly willing to use it. So I would recommend that to these people, if any of you are listening, that you rethink your position on this whole how much you want this war. because the casualties aren't going to be all on our side. And I don't even care if Satan himself was the President of the United States. I'd support anybody against these fucking cocksuckers from the South who freak out because, oh my God, oh man, somebody we don't like is having a 4-year term in office. Oh no, oh no! It's like, shut up. Shut the fuck up. It blows my fucking mind, man. And just the constant disrespect towards the President of the United States is just mind-boggling to me. Because I don't like George Bush, alright? But I would not threaten to kill George Bush. I don't want to see George Bush dead, and I never did. And I had a certain amount of respect for George Bush or anybody that's in that position, okay? Because it takes a certain kind of person to be able to become the President of the United States. George Bush might not be the brightest person on the planet, but he had something going for him. There was something going on, okay, in order for him to become the president of the most powerful country on the planet. That's not easy, okay? So I have an amount of instant respect for that kind of person, all right? And respect for each other helps us work together a little bit better. You'll notice that. But shit like that cocksucker that shouted out during one of the president's speeches at Congress, I can't even believe that shit. Just completely unheard of, man. He's the president of the fucking United States of America. Have some fucking respect. It doesn't matter if he's black, brown, or Chinese, okay? Have some fucking respect for the man. He's a fucking president. I guarantee you he's smarter than most of us. He's probably smarter than me. He's probably better than me, too. He's a fucking president, alright? That shit blows my mind. Just the amount of respect that the Republicans... I shouldn't even say the Republicans. The amount of respect that the right wing expects for their ideas and the amount of respect they show for everyone else is just fucking mind-boggling. I can't even believe it's allowed. But, you know, like the people that put up that sign, they need to be watched. I'm not saying these people should be arrested. Okay, don't get me wrong. Every time I say something like this, people are like, oh, you want to send the Gestapo after them? No. Okay, but they should be watched by somebody. Just like the Southern Poverty Law Center watches hate groups, we need somebody to be watching groups like the people that would put up a billboard like this. You know. And another thing that's surprising about this whole, the renewed right-wing movement is just the boldness by which they go with what they're doing. Take this for example. There's a group called the Oathkeepers. Now, I know about the Oathkeepers only because of this. I used to have a Don't Tread on Me flag in front of my house, because I like that flag. I came to the realization that I had to take the fucking thing down because the only people that have been showing that flag are these fucking psychopaths at these town hall meetings, and I don't want to be associated with these people, so I took the flag down and put up POWMIA. A little bit after I took the flag down, some gentleman from down the street comes over, talks to my mother. I wasn't here, all right? And he's like, oh, I liked your sign or whatever. Are you with the blah, blah, blah? And she's like, no. And he's like, well, I mean, she's like, no, we don't want to be associated with these people. He's like, well, just check out these people. They're called the Oathkeepers. I'm like, okay. So the Oathkeepers, they have a declaration of orders we will not obey. Now get a load of this declaration of orders they will not obey. First of all, the Oathkeepers claim to be composed of active duty and former military and police and government officials. Now, if there are actually active duty military members in this website, I would recommend that they watch what they're doing, because if the government isn't watching these people, then they should be. Because the kind of shit that they say in here, if an active duty military member were to say this kind of shit, could be considered treasonous. Orders we will not obey. Such a time is near at hand again. The fate of unborn millions will now depend, under God, on the courage and conduct of this Army, and this Marine Corps, this Air Force, this Navy, and this National Guard and police units of these sovereign states. Oathkeepers is a nonpartisan association of currently serving military, reserves, National Guard, peace officers, firefighters, and veterans who swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and meant it. We won't just follow orders. Below is our declaration of orders we will not obey because we consider them unconstitutional and thus unlawful, and immoral violations of the natural rights of the people. Such orders would be acts of war against the American people by their own government, and thus acts of treason. We will not make war against our own people. We will not commit treason. We will defend the Republic. Declaration of orders we will not obey, recognizing that we each swore an oath to defend and support the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and affirming that we are guardians of the Republic, of the principles in our Declaration of Independence and the right of our people. We affirm and declare the following. We will not obey any orders to disarm the American people. The attempt to disarm the American people on April 19th, 1775 was a spark of open conflict in the American Revolution. That vile attempt was an act of war, blah, 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 blah. Now, let's talk about this first order. We will not disarm the American people. All right. First of all, what do these orders imply? By putting these orders down here, they're implying that this is something that could actually happen. Like, this is a threat. Like, they're just going to come in and disarm everybody. I've said this shit before, and I have to say it again because I can't believe how many people are this fucking stupid, okay? They can't just take your guns. Let me repeat that again. They cannot just take your guns. It does not work that way. Now, they could declare martial law in a certain place like New Orleans when they confiscated some guns from certain people, but that's different. They could never get away with a full nationwide gun, I don't know, taking, all right? First of all, the state would have to cooperate with the federal government on that declaration of martial law. It's not going to happen. Okay, they'd have to change the Constitution. We would know about it. There would be preparation for this. Okay, it wouldn't just happen overnight. It's not going to happen. All right. We will not obey any order to conduct warrantless searches of American people, their homes, vehicles, papers, or effects, such as warrantless house-to-house searches for weapons or persons. Well, there's a problem with that whoever wrote this doesn't understand, is that sometimes you have to do warrantless searches of people's houses in certain situations, like when you have martial law declared, okay? Now, martial law is not something that is used all the time just whenever somebody fucking feels like it, okay? Look at the riots in Detroit, all right, in the 60s. Martial law was declared, and they entered people's property on warrantless searches. They were looking for people. They were trying to rescue people, trying to find people that have been accused of shooting somebody. That's just something that happens sometimes, okay? Sometimes your rights are taken away, and I've said this before. We don't have any rights, we have privileges, okay? We will not obey any order to detain American citizens as unlawful enemy combatants or to subject them to trial by military tribunal. As if this is something that's going to happen. All these things seem to imply that they think there's going to be a civil war coming, and I'd like to know how they think this is going to happen. I'd like to know why. They never clearly say. All right. Number four, we will not obey orders to impose martial law or a state of emergency on a state, or to enter with force into a state without the express consent and invitation of the state's legislature and governor. Well, that's never really. Thankfully, whenever there's been military or martial law declared or a state of emergency declared, the governor in the state has always supported it, because that's what you have to do in order to get federal troops in. Okay. The state can deploy National Guard on their own. The governor can do that. We will not obey orders to invade and subjugate any state that asserts its sovereignty and declares the national government to be in violation of the compact by which the state entered the Union. Well. Here we get to the meat of the issue, and here we get to the issue of succession, which I have talked about before. Sorry, let me get back to it. Stupid webpage. Well, here's the thing, okay? It's not constitutional to secede, okay? As soon as a state secedes from the Union, they are no longer protected under the rules of the Constitution. It doesn't apply, okay? They're not Americans anymore. That's how it fucking works. So, basically, what they're saying here is that we will commit treason against the United States government no matter what. Even if a state just for some stupid bullshit reason like Texas was talking about. Oh, we don't like niggers and being the president, so we're going to secede. You're going to commit treason against the United States to protect those cocksuckers? That's why these people need to be found and checked up on. Alright? We will not obey any order to blockade American cities, thus turning them into giant concentration camps. Okay? Where's the evidence for that? Where do you come up with shit like that? Like that's a plan? That's why this pisses me off. Because there's no evidence for this happening. There's no evidence for this ever happening. It's like they act like the government is like, okay, we're going to build a giant fence around the city and keep all the... No, it's not going to happen, okay? It's not. And trust me, the United States government could not hold down the American people if they did something like that. We all have guns, okay? There's not enough military to do that. It's not even a threat. It wouldn't even be a consideration. They'd never even try it. We will not obey any order to force American citizens into any form of detention camps under any pretext. And then underneath that, whoops, they have a picture of one of the famous pictures of a Jew being shot in the head into a pile. What kind of message are you sending? Where is the fucking evidence for this? Okay? Nowhere. This is just bullshit. We will not obey any orders to assist or support the use of any foreign troops on U.S. soil against the American people to keep the peace or to maintain control during any emergency or under any other pretext. We will consider such use of foreign troops against our people to be invasion and an act of war. No shit you would, because that would never happen. Where are these people getting these ideas? What have they read and been told that makes them think that this is going to happen? That Obama is going to call in the European Union as peacekeeping troops in the United States? Give me a fucking break. We will not obey any orders to confiscate the property of American people, including food and other essential supplies, under any emergency pretext whatsoever. Well, that's frankly unfortunate because, again, sometimes you have to do some shit like that. Like, alright, let's look at an extreme example, since all of this are extreme examples. Let's talk nuclear war, okay? So there's a nuclear war, and you have gentleman A has hoarded a bunch of food, and he's the only one that lives in this house. He's got enough food to feed 300 people, right? He's got fuel and batteries and all kinds of shit. You're just going to let this motherfucker have that? No, because the rules have changed, okay? Something has happened that means that his right to that property is superseded by the need of the people around him. So you damn well better take his shit. Or what kind of a fucking soldier are you? What kind of protector of the people are you when you won't do what has to be done? Sometimes you have to do things that you don't like. That's part of being in the military. All right. It's like I heard this interview with this guy from Iraq Veterans Against the War, which I have nothing against this group of people. That's fine. But the thing that he was talking about that was really strange to me is that he was like, you know, and all the death and violence that we caused over there was our fault. And he seemed honestly surprised about it, like he never expected he'd have to kill people. Well, guess what? That's part of joining the military, the understanding that you might have to do things that you find distasteful. And sometimes that includes taking people's rights away. Okay? I'm sorry, and I know people aren't going to like that. I know people aren't going to like what I just said. But that's too fucking bad because we live in the real world, okay? We don't live in the fucking dream world, because if we lived in the dream world, we wouldn't even be having this discussion. We will not obey any orders which infringe on the right of the people to free speech, to peaceably assemble, and to petition the government for redress of grievances. Well, that's never really happened. Peaceable is really a matter of opinion, which is part of the reason why that was put in there. Sometimes you have to break up a protest, too. You can't allow mobs of people to be doing violent shit. You can't, okay? So basically, what these people are doing is advocating treason against the federal government with no evidence whatsoever that any of this stuff is going to happen, okay? Watch out for people like this, okay? They've convinced themselves with no evidence that this is really a threat to them, right? and I think some people would act on this. All right. But I mean, imagine if they'd done this before when there was race riots in Detroit or in L.A. All right. Not saying that those riots weren't necessarily justified. Okay. What was happening to the blacks in those cities was terrible. All right. And there was a lot of anger, and it brewed and it turned into that. Okay. I understand what the emotions that were behind that, but you can't allow people to be rioting and burning down towns and cities. Okay. You can't allow that. So what would have happened if soldiers had said, no, we're not going to enforce martial law on this riot? How many more people would have died? Answer me that question. They won't. I don't know. I'll put a link to this website. There's all kinds of fucked up shit on this website that you should read. So I'll put a link to it over here. I don't know. I'll talk to you folks later.